I'm already broadcasting, so we're not doing any dirty jokes. People here. Behind a couple minutes tonight. 6 of you are here. Tara, I hope you're live streaming. I haven't heard from you even about the third test yet. You had great grades on the first 2 tests. Then I guess the married couple's out there video streaming somewhere. And even you say Millie was on her way?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And
Yes.
does she haven't seen you all for 2 weeks? Did you go to New York? Even have a good time?
Yeah.
What areas did you visit?
We went to the Rockefeller Center, Times Square, Wall Street, the Memorial, shopping, the Brooklyn Bridge.
Did you go to Wall Street?
Yeah.
Did you get to go in and observe?
What?
When you went to Wall Street,
Yeah, we went.
did you get to go in where the market was? Watch the ticker tapes?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay,
Touched the pool. He touched the pool.
okay.
The pool
I went to Chicago one time and I went to the commodity exchange and I went in and put the ticker tapes, so forth. And Horace, was it warm down in Florida?
Oh, yes.
What part did you go to?
London.
Orlando, okay. And I guess you like this weather better?
Yeah. It's cute.
What was it, about 13 or 14 this morning? Margot, did you go Black Friday?
A little bit.
Did you go Black Friday? I figured out if everybody in here, you'd be the one to go Black Friday. Bye. So forth. Now you are in West Virginia. I know the 4 international students, 3 others not here. But out of you 3, did one of you have deer meat for Thanksgiving? No? Not a one?
My husband has some jerky.
Yeah. But usually on my day class, if there's 15 there, 4 or 5 of them, that was the Thanksgiving dinner was deer meat. Don't have to be turkey in hand, but. Okay, folks, we've got so much ground to cover tonight. I hate to start, but we've got to start and push it. Get a lot done. Hope you are keeping up with Cengage. William, do you have Cengage chapter 8 100%? What? Chapter 8? I better ask somebody else. All right, how much of mine do you have finished?
I think it was like at 42%.
Okay. Evan?
I'm pretty well through 9, but I skipped chapter 8 because I was a little behind. So that's 0 and 8, but I'm pretty well through 9. Gotta go back and catch up.
All right, you all got a week. Have 8, 9, and 10 all finished. 1 week. No, next week is the exam.
When is the exam? Is it
Next week.
4 o'clock?
4 o'clock,
It's the same time.
same time.
Oh my God.
All right, so we got 1 week from this moment. Okay. 3 chapters, 50 multiple choice. And I told you to have a page of notes, both sides. Okay? And next week, I'll check out the extra points. 5 for registration, 10 for, attendance. You miss no days or 1 day. And then, I'll be giving you some bonus problems tonight. 5 apiece. You can pick up 25 extra points on the exam if you do all the stuff. Okay? Now, let's get busy. Okay, chapter 8, we're not going to touch again. It's a bank reconciliation. It is petty cash. And, I believe it's cash over and short. Okay? Even though it's a multiple choice test, you'll need a calculator. Because you will have to do a bank reconciliation even in a multiple choice question. You'll have to find out what the bank balance is or the book balance. But you'll have an answer to choose from. A petty cash, when we establish a petty cash fund, we debit petty cash and credit cash. Then when we write that out through the month for supplies and delivery expense or whatever, we debit those. And the credit cash, we write a check out. Come in, bad Millie. Anyhow, how was Chicago?
It was windy.
What is it?
Huh?
They call it the Windy City.
Yeah, it was very windy. I didn't expect that.
They
But it
also
was very nice. Love it.
go down the Magnificent Mall.
I went everywhere, to the zoo, to museums,
This is
to
too cold
the
for
tower.
Yeah.
It was very nice.
Too cold for some of them. New York, how was the weather up there? Also about 40 degrees?
This is under this.
Yeah.
Was mostly.
Wasn't too bad.
First 2 days wasn't too bad, but at the end it was.
Yeah.
30.
Well, the weather is what we get. Okay, and if you have cash over short, like I was talking to, talk to you about McDonald's. Now, if you had cash over in your drawer, your credit there. Your credit sales, credit cash over, and debit cash, cash sales. And vice versa, okay? Cash is short, debit cash short, no. Now, moving on to chapter 9. We worked on chapter 9 a little bit last week. You learned the days of the month. Even learned enough of that. All right? But anyway, you can calculate interest. So we're going to review that chapter just a little bit and move on to chapter 10. I'm going to take a note of $8,000. The rate on this note is 8%. The time is 90 days. The day is November what? Is it 28? All right. Now for this note, take the face of the note which is 8,000 plus interest, give me maturity value. Now also give me the maturity date. So okay, if you got a calculator, please take it out. If you got paper, please put it in front of you. If you want to learn accounting, please join in. William, have you got the interest yet?
640.
How much?
640.
8/8 is 64, isn't it? But that's for a year, William. Did you do it for 90 days? What you got, Evan?
Is it 160?
It is.
8,160.
Maturity value is 8,160. All right. But all of you get this 160. You see how to get that, William? 90 over 360. Millie, can you get to 160? Eva? All right. Take the 8,000 times 8% times 90 over a rounded year, 360. All right, we'll practice a couple more. Now, maturity date, how many days are left in November? 12. December, 31. January, 31. That makes 74. I need February the 16th, 19. That'd be my maturity date. All right. We need to practice finding that interest. Some of you have gotten cold since 2 weeks ago. Even William got cold. He gave me interest for a year. All right. Calculate I real quick. We don't have all day now. Calculate I. Okay, Carlos, what's the interest here? Oh, now you're getting your calculator out? No.
Is it 66?
What?
66.6.
$20,000 times 12% for 60 days.
I thought it was two.
I thought that was-
What?
Yeah, me too, that's why.
About 2%.
Like,
Oh, you did? You didn't see 12%? All right, let's calculate over then. Y'all may be right. You might have been right too.
It's 20,000 times 12% times 60 days.
Over 360.
400. 400.
400.
William, did you get 400? Evan? Eva? Millie? All right, don't kid me now. You need to know this. I'm going to do one more. That's 8.5%. All right, find me interest. Got to use your calculator on that one. You can't do it in your head.
What's that with that?
8.5%, 15,000, 90 days. How much, Carlos?
318.75.
75? Anybody match that? We got 3 to match it. Arthur? I need to see your work.
Yep.
You get 318. You haven't done it.
I mean, it's just something that.
Huh? So use 360. Use 360.
Oh, 360?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, use 360. I'll change that. Now, I'm not being a smart butt, I just want you all to know how to do this, okay? All right, if the face is 15,000, then the maturity value is 15,318.75. All right, now that's the basics of this chapter. Plus you had bad debts we're going to review. Okay, did you have any assignments for tonight? And what are they, Miss Morrow?
The one you wanted to hand in was 5A, 432.
Okay, number what now?
5A on page 432. And then we also had exercises 3 and 4 in chapter 9.
All right, you had 5A on page 432. I will take that up next week. Okay? All right, I will not go over it this week. Now, how about chapter 9? What?
Number 3 and 4, the exercises.
I'll be giving you a bonus from this chapter in a minute. All right.
You also told me to remind you about the bonus.
The what?
The bonus too, when we were going over the test 2 weeks ago, you told me to remind you about getting that bonus today for that last test.
Okay, let's just wrap all that up next week because we'll have more time. We'll wrap it up. Remind me. Okay, let me bring some solutions up here real quick. Carlos, have any of you students, any of you four, have you ever been down to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee? Gatlinburg? Have you heard about it? Not heard about it? Now, Margot, you've been down there, not Margot, but Melissa, you've been
Morgan.
down. Morgan, you've been down there.
We go about twice a year.
I've got a date, Margot. Well, I'm finding these solutions. Tell them what's down at Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg.
Well, there's a lot of everything, but mostly shopping, there's a lot of shopping. But there, it's really pretty mountains if you go up into the Smokies.
Anyway, if you four ever get a change, you need to go to Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. Arthur would like the moonshine tasting. But anyway, they have this little town. It's just all kinds of shops. And then they have Dollywood. They have Splash Country in the summer. I went down this weekend and they have a Christmas shop. Inside that shop, they probably had up 50 different trees and just all kinds of displays. And they light it up well. And on Main Street, they have the 12 Days of Christmas and so forth as far as lights go. But they've got everything down there from bungee jumping to skydiving to four-wheel rides back in the mountains to whatever, water rafting. About anything you want to do, you can do it down in the Smoky Mountains. All right, now just say you had to do exercise 9-3, right?
And 3 and 4.
Okay, 9-3, you sold something on accounts receivable. You made your 2 entries, your debit cost of merchandise sold and credit to inventory. Now this person owes $30,000, but they can only pay $12,000. So you write the rest of it off as a bad debt expense, the direct write-off method. All right. And then this person decides to pay you. You reverse that. Debit accounts receivable, credit bad debt expense, then debit cash and credit accounts receivable. Number 4. You had an allowance account set up. An allowance account is an adjusted entry. Here are your debit accounts receivable, credit sales, your debit your cost of merchandise sold, credit your inventory. Now this person can only pay $8,000.
It's no fair.
Take care, Philip.
Yeah.
And you write the rest off allowance for doubtful account. That's the second situation. You got direct write-off, exercise 3. You got the allowance method, exercise 4. Now this person decides to pay you too. Just reverse it, take his cash. But there's a lot more to accounts receivable and bad debts than that. A lot more. I want you to go to number 7 real quick. Go to exercise 7. This is something real simple. Number of days past due. Two Auto distributes new and used automobile parts to local dealers. All right, their credit terms are net 30 as of the end of the business on October 31st. Okay. This is October 31st. All right, Millie, can you find out how much Advanced Auto is past due? Carlos, Bell's Auto, Arthur, Derby, William, Lucky, Morgan, Pit Stop, and Evan, Reliable. Find out how much, how long past due their bill is. Number 7. Okay, which one did you have, William?
I believe that the Derby Auto Repair.
All right, William had Derby Auto. Now, William, your answer is just don't know why this won't let me run. Won't. All right, William, Derby Auto. Did you get 130 days?
Yes.
You did? All right. 7, 31, 31, 30, and 31. All right, where do those days come from? You have to figure them out. Who had Bell's Auto? Carlos, which ones you have? Advanced Auto?
Yes.
What'd you get? 84? And Arthur, what'd you get?
I did.
Arthur, you should have got 20. All right. You all know what you're doing? All right. Morgan says she does. On Bell's Auto, October the 11th. And what are the terms? Net 30 as of the end of business on October the 31st. The following accounts received were past due. Determine the number of days each account is past due as of October the 31st. The due date was October the 11th. Well, subtract 11 from 31, it's 20 days past due. Got that, Arthur? Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay. Morgan, you had Lucky.
I had Pit Stop,
What'd you get?
42 days.
42. Evan, you had?
Reliable Auto Repair, and I got 108 days.
All right, you had Reliable 108.
Yeah.
And Morgan, you got 42. What'd you have, Eva?
368 days.
All right, for Trident. And which ones you have, Millie?
The first one.
Did you have Lucky?
No, I had the first on the list.
All right, what's your answer?
It's 84.
How much?
84?
Carlos had that one.
No, he had the Bales. Well,
Oh, he did?
yeah.
Okay. I thought Arthur had that one.
No, cause I was the first, so first, second, third, and then you went like that. So she was the last.
Gotcha, okay. Guys, I want to ask you a question. You all know Millie very well.
What?
Do you all know Millie very good?
Yes, very good.
Does she like to argue?
No, I just like to do it.
Does she like to be right? Okay. Anyhow, that is your second situation under the allowance method. A percent of sales is the first method. The agent method is the second method. So please review those, have something in your notes about them. All right, let's go to exercise 10. Exercise 10, page 470. Using data in exercise 9, assume that the allowance for doubtful accounts for this company has a credit balance of $10,112 before adjustment. Journalize the adjusted entry for the uncollectible accounts. Now, I want you to look at this one. This is important. Look at exercise 9 first.
Is it exercises?
Yes, exercises. We're on page 470. All right. Look at exercise 9 first. Here, we're not going to collect 2% of these, 4% of these, 18%, 40%. We're not going to collect 75% of this 60. You add them all up, and we need to set up allowance for doubtful accounts, an adjusted entry, 431. However, we've got to look at the balance that's already in the account. The balance in the account was 10,112. Credit. If it were debit, you would add it. Now, this is the agent method called the balance sheet approach under the allowance situation. Then we had the percent of sales method. So please know those two. So you debit bad debt expense and your credit allowance for doubtful account. Now, when somebody won't pay you, you use some of this and you debit uncollectible, you debit allowance for doubtful accounts and you credit to accounts receivable. Under the direct write-off method, you would debit bad debt expense. Under this method, you debit allowance for doubtful accounts. You use some of it. All right, we've done some notes receivable. All right, I want you to go to exercise 22, page 474. Take a sheet of blank paper and do exercise 22. Do exercise 22. The last one finished with this exercise gets 10 points deducted from your exam, so everybody better hurry.
What if you're the first?
I'm kidding. Take a minute and see what you can do with it. Okay, on the 21st, we received on account a $96,000 note. Now we're swapping our accounts receivable for a note. They can't pay us the accounts receivable, so we're going to charge them interest. All right, so what do you think we'd debit? Anybody on that entry? What do you think we would debit?
Accounts receivable.
What?
Accounts receivable.
We're not receiving, we're not selling anything.
No, cash, notes receivable.
Notes receivable. And credit what?
Account receivable.
All right, we're trading. You see that, Morgan?
Mm-hmm.
We're trading our accounts receivable for notes receivable. Hmm. 22. All right, here is your entry. Just debit notes receivable and credit accounts receivable. We don't have time to do the appendix. I'd like to have done the appendix, but we don't have time. Now we record an adjusted entry for the accrued interest on the note on December the 3rd. Just a minute, let's see. When did we set that note up? 60-day, 3% note dated November the 21st. All right, record an adjusted entry with accrued interest on the note. All right, that's a mistake. December the 3rd has to be a mistake. Now, accrued interest, we will debit interest expense or debit interest receivable and credit interest revenue. Now here we got $320. That's 3% of 96,000 for 40 days. Now how many days were left in November? 9. How many are there in December? 31. That makes 40. That's why this December 3rd is wrong. In entry 2, mark out December 3rd. Record payment of the note or receivable of the note. All right, what's the maturity value of the note? Somebody find me the maturity value. Maturity value, folks, you know that's 96,000 times 3% times how much? 320 is your adjusted entry. But what is your interest for the whole 60 days? How much?
160.
Okay, I want to say 160 plus 320. I want to say 320 is for 40 days. 160, then you calculate for 20 days. 160 and 320 makes 480. All right. 460, I'm sorry. 460. All right, so we're going to debit cash for the maturity value of 96,460. Now, Millie, I believe 160 was wrong. 140. I don't know if that's. What's half of 320? Somebody, what's half of 320? How much? It is, isn't it? Well, you'd think if 320 was 40 days, 160 would be 20. But that is 8. Okay. That is 8. 480, sorry. getting tired. Now, the notes receivable was 96,000. Interest receivable was 320, and interest revenue was 160. So what Millie gave me was interest revenue for this period, 160. Interest revenue for last period was 320, last month. November, 320, December, 160. Altogether, that was 480. Add that on, you got the maturity value of your note. All right, you'll have a lot of this in multiple choice questions. You'll have 50 multiple choice, no true false, and you'll need your calculator. Right now, for a bonus, no matter how you do it, for a bonus from this chapter, 3A, and 5A. Now, 3A and 5A will bring you up to date on notes receivable and bad debts. Those two together will be a 5-point bonus. They're on Moodle. I mean, I hope you don't just copy it down. I hope you try to learn from them. You'll have a lot to do. Now, Evan has got chapter 8 and almost all chapter 9 finished. So he has to do Singate chapter 10 and his bonus. But somebody's going to have a heck of a lot of work to do. Right? Okay. I got your email a week late.
That's fine.
I did answer it.
You did?
Yeah. A week later, yeah, I answered it.
Oh, today?
No. Last week, I told you I'd be in my office Monday if you want to come by. So there was it, he didn't get it.
That's fine.
All right. This chapter, know how to calculate interest, know when the due date is, know what maturity value means, know how to make simple entries on notes. Now, we had a note receivable, just a moment, one more thing on notes. We can debit a notes receivable for 20,000, and we can credit accounts receivable for 20,000. All right. Now we also could loan one of our customers money and credit cash for 20,000. We also could sell a vehicle or a dozer or anything like that and put it on a notes receivable from the get-go. It don't have to be on accounts receivable. So there's 3 ways we put that notes receivable on our books. All right. I'm going to go back to a PowerPoint real quick for chapter 10. I hate to push you with this chapter. I should have come in tonight. The electricity's off, but I couldn't until lectured that night that you were here. If you'd have watched it on Moodle. All right. See, I can write on this one. Fixed assets. Current assets is cash and accounts receivable. Current portion of a notes receivable. What do you think fixed assets are? The long-term notes receivable would be an investment. And a patent would be under intangibles. We've got other assets we'll learn later. Right now, we've learned two assets, current assets, now we're looking at fixed assets. All right, fixed assets is your property, plant, and equipment, right? In this room, computers and monitors and tables are fixed assets. And they depreciate. All right, fixed assets depreciate, and that's called capitalization. Now, if we bought a piece of equipment for $20,000, we don't take it all off at once. Equipment expense. We take it over a period of time. It's called depreciation expense. Arthur, would you mind closing your laptop while I'm going over these PowerPoints, and then we'll need your laptop in a minute. Thanks. All right. When Arthur's turning red, he's looking at something dirty on that laptop. Okay? No. I'm kidding you, Arthur. All right. So depreciation expense is called capitalization. All right, your first problem in chapter 10. I want you to pay attention to this. Your first problem in chapter 10 was taking all these items and put it where it goes, under land or building or land improvements. Now, did you order anything on Black Friday or Cyber Monday? You order stuff on Cyber Monday? Did you have to pay shipping? Did you have to pay sales tax? All right. Now that's your total cost. And that's what we'd add on to a building. We'd add on taxes, we'd add on shipping, but here it's a little different. We'd add on architect fees, engineering fees, insurance costs, sales tax, and so on. Machinery and equipment, we may add on freight, whereas you add on shipping, installation, repairs, assembly, land, sales taxes, permits, broker's commission, all these things are added on to the price of land. All right, that's to get your bases of your fixed asset. All right, if any of these things happen while you're building a building, you do not add it back to the cost, okay? That's something else. All right, we're going to buy equipment for $13,600. But we're going to pay $12,000 for it. We're going to pay freight of $6,000, and we're going to pay $1,500 to have it installed, and we're going to pay $500 do an error, but we're not going to add that. We're going to subtract it. So this should have only been $1,000. 500 from 1,500 is 1,000. So we debit equipment with credit cash. Now we've got to depreciate that equipment over its life. And if you build a thing on lease property, you can also lease, depreciate a building that you put on lease property. You may not own the property or the building, but if you build it, you can take it. Anybody here ever lease a car? All right, here is half the chapter right here. Now we've got until 6:30 tonight to cover a chapter. And that's when we'll try to leave around 6:30. Okay. Hopefully you all come through and you've had 2 weeks off. You've got 2 weeks of work to do. with sin gauge, these bonus problems, and these chapters.
This is the bonus problem.
Already have. Chapter 9 already have.
Not the bonus problem.
3A,
What were they, Millie?
3A and 5A.
I'll also be giving you a bonus problem from chapter 10. All right, so depreciation. Depreciation is based on an asset's cost, its expected life, and residual value. Now, what does synonym mean? Millie, Eva, what do you think a synonym is? Do you know, Evan?
What, a word that means the same as another word?
Yeah, he's had more American English than you have, Eva.
Like synonym, like just a synonym?
Yeah,
Oh, the same in Spanish, sure.
okay, it means the same, right? So a synonym for residual would be scrap, salvage, trade-in, disposable. So when you hear me say scrap, I mean residual. All right, we're going to look at straight line depreciation. You're going to learn this method in 2 minutes. Straight line is equal to the cost minus the residual over the life in years. All right, the cost is 50,000. The residual or the scrap is 5,000. And the life is 10 years. All right, calculate depreciation. What's your answer? 4,500. All right, year 1, it's 4,500. Year 2, it's 4,500. Year 3 is 4,500. Now, what is my accumulated depreciation, William, after 3 years?
3 years is 13,500.
He is correct. It depreciates, it accumulates. Every year I debit depreciation expense and credit accumulated. So after 3 years, my accumulated is that much. Now, after 3 years, Morgan, what do you think the book value is? The book value. She did that right. She took the cost minus the accumulated depreciation, and she got 36.5. Book value. That's a term in this chapter. Okay, that's straight line. Now, if something is depreciated for 10 years, how much is that a year? If it's depreciating for 10 years, how much is that a year? What percent a year? What fraction a year? How much? 1/10?
4,500.
Yeah. 1/10 is what as a percent, Carlos? All right. So 10 years is 10% a year. Okay, now let's get a handle on some of those. You'll need that in a minute. Millie, 5 years is what percent a year? What percent a year? No, 5 years. What percent a year?
50,
How much?
50,
All right, Millie. 1/5 a year. What is 1/5 as a percent or a decimal? All right. That's okay, Millie. I'm gonna give you another one. All right.
I'm good.
Millie, if it were 25 years, what percent is that a year?
Four.
1/25 a year is 4%. You see, Millie, you're doing this the wrong way. The hard way, the long way. Like Carlos, all you had to do was divide 10 into 100 and get 10. All you had to do here is divide 5 into 100 and get 20. And divide 25 into 100 and get 4. But you took 1/25 a year and divided 25 into 1, which gave you the right answer. But you don't have to. Okay, we're not finished. Eva. Okay, 4 years, Eva, would be how much a year? What?
25.
Yeah. Just divide 4 into 100 or 1/4 or whatever. Okay, Millie. 25 years. I gave that one to Millie. 25 years would be what?
4.
Okay, now look at that. Almost all numbers in math have reverses. If it's 4 years, it's 25%. If it's 25 years, then it must be 4%. All numbers have reverses in math. Okay, a couple of more of these. Evan, 8 years, Evan.
12.5.
Now, Evan got that pretty quick, didn't they? 12.5%. You know, you can also look at half of numbers and get a lot of answers. You know, if it's 4 years, it's 25% a year. Therefore, if it's 8 years, it must be 12.5% a year. All right. You can look at other numbers to work out an answer quicker. All right. Morgan, 12 years.
8.3.
8 what?
0.3.
It's 8 1/3, isn't it? 8 1/3%. But it would really be this or 8.3%. 3 repeating. All right. 30 years would be what then, William?
3 1/3.
3 1/3. If you know, then I know that 15 years must be 6 2/3. Because 15 is half of 30. All right, enough of that. Okay. Now we're going to have to do part year depreciation. Again, I want you to use that formula and take the cost of 40,000 and the residual of 4,000 and a life of 5 years. Now, we purchased this on November the 1st, 18. You're gonna make an adjusted entry on December the 31st, 18. You've only owned that equipment, and you can round if you bought it under November the 15th, counting 2 months. All right, you'll put 2 over 12. Now, find me depreciation for 2 months. All right, that's 36,000 over 5 years. What does that give you?
7,000.
How much?
7,200.
And you multiply that by 2/12 or 1/6. What does that give you? They give you 1,200 for 2 months. You can also find that depreciation for a month, which would be 600 a month. So that's part year depreciation. All right. Now that's straight line. We've got to cover two more methods before the break. And the residual value, now remember, is scrap, salvage, trade-in, disposable, whatever. We looked at this method. Now we're going to look at this method. Straight line is exactly what I told you. Here's the formula again. Here's these percentages we worked on. William had this one. Eva probably had that one. John had that one. Anyway, I know Eva had that one. But anyhow, what we're going to do with those percents after we get them, I'll show you in a minute. You can use percents instead of dividing. Well, here's your journal entry. Now, this is a contra account. That means it's a minus on your balance sheet. I've already discussed book value. Now here's the one, here's why you need to know the percents. It's double. All right. Now I want you to calculate depreciation. Cost is equal to 20,000. Scrap is 2,000. And the life is 10 years. Can anybody calculate depreciation using this method? All right, John did this one. Not John, but Carlos. Carlos, 10 years is what percent a year?
10%.
All right, but now, Carlos, look at what this says. So now what percent do I use? I got to double that 10. Now, for this method, folks, you do not use scrap. That is one of your 50 questions on the test. Which method does not take out scrap value? I just told you the answer. Now you got 49 questions to go. All right. Okay. So what is 20,000 times 20%? Now you take the book value next year of 16,000 to get depreciation for year 2, and 20% next year of 16, I believe would be 3,200, wouldn't it? And for the third year, you subtract 3,200 from that amount. I don't know where this went. But don't seem to want to go back. And I was writing real good a minute ago, too. Now I can't write on it.
Will it let you click on the slide so you can see your writing?
Click on what, dear?
Will it let you click on the slide on the left, on slide 42?
Oh, I don't even know which one it is. It's so little. Is that what you're talking about?
Go down a bit.
That works, don't it? Yeah. Okay. All right, I didn't want to get units of production yet. Yeah. Okay. If we took this one, we ignore residual value. 5 years of 20% a year, take 20% of 24,000. What's 20% of 24,000? How much? Somebody multiply 24,000 by decimal 20. Whoa, decimal 40. 5 years of 20%, got to double it. Decimal 40.
9,600.
How much?
9,600.
All right. You know, I don't like the way they're doing it here. It's just more common sense. So declining balance. All right, now I'm going to give you one problem on declining balance. I'm going to make this easy. I'll make it 10,000 for 5 years. 1,000 scrap or residual. Now give me depreciation for year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give me the depreciation for each year. So we're going to take a break, and we got a whole long time after the break. How much depreciation this first year? Times how much? What percent?
40.
What's 5 into 100? 20. 20 times 2 is 40. How much is left? Book value. What's 40% of 6,000? Is it 2,400? How much is left? What's 40% of 3,600?
1,440,
400 and what?
or 1,440.
All right, subtract 1,440 from 3,600.
2,160.
And multiply that by 40%. $800 and what? 864. And how much is left?
1,296.
Yeah. All right, now I want to show you something here. That's why I carried it through for the whole 5 years. What did I say the scrap value was? Now you do not depreciate below scrap. So I'm going to put an X right there, 40%, and my depreciation is $296. I do not depreciate below 1,000. That makes sense, Morgan? All right, let's take our break. And let's get started back at 5:30. And we'll carry on to at least 6:30. Now, if you don't want to take a break and you want to be working some problems, you're welcome to do so.
Is this the? Bon, oui. Elle est là, les chansons, c'est qui la semaine là? Non. C'est pas la même. Ah, aussi.
Tardiva? I didn't understand how it was said. So I tell Simon, is that true? No.
Yeah.
Ground zeros. So let's say it. I give Simon. Did you go down to my give Simon? Chicago. Right.
Yeah, in the mall.
In the mall, yeah. Okay. Okay. What is that tower called? Sears Tower?
Well,
Used to be a tall Sears Tower. And then when I go to someone I went at the bar down in St. Louis. Oh,
this was kind of scary.
the tire. Don't talk for you. Did you walk all the way around the tower?
Yeah.
Okay, back to business, folks. One fast hour of a lot of stuff, okay? All right, the other method is called the units of production method, units of activity. All right, this one, units is equal to the cost minus the residual value over the life in units. So I'm putting that little U there. So if something costs $10,000, residual value 1,000, but the life in units is equal to 100,000. Now take that formula and give me how much per unit for 1 unit. Take this formula and find out how much it is for 1 unit. You have it, Carlos? What have you got? All right. Morgan, do you have it? What?
Then 10,000 minus 2,000, which is 9,000.
That makes 9,000.
And 100,000.
Then 9,000 into 100,000 into 9,000. Reverse your division,
Oh, okay.
and you'll get 9 cents, right? Or $9, 9 cents. What?
0.09.
9 cents. That's in cents. Now, if I said in year one, you produce 2,000 units. So what is 2,000 times 9 cents? How much?
180.
All right. I should have changed that since it's such a big number, 100,000, 20,000 units times 9 cents. That would give you 18,000. Whoa, what would that give you? 1,800, wouldn't it? All right. Now that's the 3 methods, folks. Now we're going to have to work on part year on a couple of those. All right. Now please follow this example. It's the last one I'm going to give you. Now we know that depreciation is on fixed assets, everything but land. Now Mr. Imel had to teach a demo the other day. He's applying to be the division dean. And I sat in on it. And I sat in on Miss Belcher's. And then the guy today, I didn't get to see his teaching demo, but I sat in on some of his interview. He teaches somewhere down in Texas. And he teaches marketing. And he took a bunch of his marketing students to Australia. I don't know who paid for that. Most students couldn't afford it. It's a 20-hour flight to Australia. But anyhow, so Mr. Imel was given adjusting entries. He gave one on supplies. Then he gave one on unearned revenue. Then he gave one on depreciation. And here our president was in there, and our provost, and the dean of nursing, female, Dr. Lambert, used to be our provost, acting provost. So I told Mr. Imel, the way I told my students is fixed assets depreciate like us men, and land appreciates, goes up in value like the women in that group. So they got a kick out of that. And I believe that. Carlos, you'll depreciate. Millie, you will appreciate. Okay. Morgan's husband knows what I'm talking about because she's finally learned to cook. So, other than bringing home a McDonald's burger, he gets enough of those at his work. So, all right. So let me give you an example and see what you can do with this. Now, all of you be serious. Even author, try to be serious. It's hard for author to be serious, but right off, author, Georgie said he would tutor you between now and next week if you asked him. Yeah, so you need to ask him. On these 3 chapters, he'll help you a lot.
I will.
Okay? All of you will need tutoring. Everybody in this class. Okay, cost is equal to 40,000. Scrap is equal to 2,000. All right. And the life is equal to 10 years. And life also is equal to, I'll go with 50,000 units. Now, can you take that? First off, I want you to give me straight line depreciation for year 1 and 2. Give me straight line depreciation for year 1 and 2. There's your formulas. You can have these written down on those 2 pages of notes, 1 page front and back. I need a quick answer on this one. Whoever gets it first, tell me. $40,000. 10 years, 2,000 scrap. Quick answer, Evan.
Don't have it yet.
Millie,
I got it and then I deleted it.
what have you got?
I don't know.
3,800.
All right, who said that?
Myself.
Arthur? You did good. All right,
What did you say?
3,800?
Yeah.
Did you get that, Morgan? Why?
I lost it on the other two.
We gotta move on here. Evan, did you get it?
No,
Why?
well, I don't remember the formula that we used.
All right, Morgan and Evan, take your cost minus your scrap divided by the life. Now, what is 40,000 minus 2 divided by 10? You don't need a calculator. William, what's 40,000 minus 2 divided by 10? 3,800. Now, I want you to do that with this method, double declining balance. For year 1 and year 2. Who's got the answer first? See if you can get $8,000. Carlos, you were getting this a minute ago. How do you get $8,000? Do what?
20,000 minus 2,000 divided by 10.
You don't take out scrap on not declining balance. 10 years, Carlos, you had that a minute ago. What percent is that a year? Double that, because this is double declining balance. 20. What's 20% of 40,000? Is it $8,000? All right. Now you take the 8,000 from 40, you got 32. For the second year, take 32,000 times 20%. I'm just guessing here that it's 64. 32,000 times 20%.
Can you explain again how we get 8,000?
Okay, Carlos, let's start over here. Not Carlos, but Arthur. We ignore scrap, right? And we're going to do this one. Here it says straight line rate times what? All right, the straight line rate would be what for 10 years? What percent a year? 1/10. Well, just divide 10 into 100, you get 10. And multiply that 10 by 2, and you get 20. Now multiply 40,000 times 20%, and you get 8,000. Okay? See there. See, I probably don't have time. Okay, you've only got 3 on there.
Yeah. I want to take 3.
You only want to take 3? How about accounting 2?
I'll probably take it.
You want major in accounting?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're going to major in accounting, you'd have to do accounting 2, because you'd have to take intermediate next year. I'm gonna leave that up to you until I see how you do on this test. If you do well on this test, we'll add accounting, okay? All right, now units of production. Look at that one real quick. We got to leave. And remember, scrap value is 2,000. Now, we're not worried about the life in years. Now, take units of production right here. Use this formula and calculate units of production. How much per unit? I'm going to guess at 76 cents. Anybody get 76 cents? That's 38,000 divided by 50,000. See, I divided by 100 and got 38 cents, but 50,000 is half 100, so I got to multiply 38 cents times 2 and I get 76 cents. We didn't have calculators when I was in high school. Okay. All right, now if you got 76 cents, I'd have to tell you how many units was produced. If 5,000 units were produced, multiply that by 76 cents, and you'll give me depreciation. Now, there's no such thing as part year depreciation on units of production. I showed you how to do part year under straight line. Now, I'm going to show you one more time. For the first time, I'm going to show you how to do part year double declining balance. How do you do part year? It's pretty simple. All right. Let's take that same problem. Cost is 40,000, life is 10 years. We ignore scrap. Now, also, once again, we're going to turn that into 10% times 2. And right now, 20% of 40,000 is 8,000, right? But now if we bought this on March 31st, 18, how many months are left? How many months are left?
9.
We know that 9 over 12 is 3/4 or 75%. So what is 75% of 8,000?
6.
How much?
6,000.
That's part year depreciation, declining balance. Now for the second year, do it the same way that we did before. This would be 36,000 times 20%. I don't know what I did here, but that was 40,000 times 20% is equal to 8,000 times 9 over 12. Now this would be 36,000 times 20. Second year depreciation would be, it looks like what? 7,200. Okay, we are finished with the methods. Please read this chapter well. All right. You see this heading right here? What's that word? Eva, what's that word? That's right, revising. Okay? I just like to hear you pronounce things. Okay. So we depreciate something. Let's take this 40,000, scrap it to 10 years. What's your depreciation per year? 40,000. Scrap is 2. Life is 10. What's my depreciation per year? 3,800. Okay, Carlos, without part year depreciation, it's 3,800 year 1, 3,800 year 2, 3,800 year 3. Now add those up and tell me what my accumulated depreciation is. What's my accumulated depreciation?
7,500.
11,000 what?
400.
Now my book value at that point in time, I hit something. At that point in time, what is that, 38.6? 28.6? Okay, now my scrap is still 2,000. What was my original life? 10 years. How much of that did I use up of that? 3. That leaves 7. Now, to revise depreciation, let's say that we only want it to run 5 more years. That would be 3 plus 5 is 8. So we've only got 5 years left out of that 8. So we subtract our 2,000 scrap, if it stayed the same, and we get 26.6 and divide by 5 years. That's called revising depreciation. Now, that's half the chapter, folks. That's an important half. Now, it mentions here ordinary maintenance and repairs, you debit maintenance and repairs expense. But here's what it says in credit cash. But extraordinary repair extends its life. You put a new motor in a truck. And here's what your entry is if you put a new motor in a truck. You debit accumulated depreciation credit cash. That increases the book value of the truck, but does not increase the cost of that truck. And the improvement. You can appreciate the improvement and you can add it on to that vehicle or whatever. Now, I told you what a revenue and capital. Salary expense is a revenue expenditure. Depreciation is a capital expenditure. Now, I'm going to get back to discarding fixed assets and selling them in a minute. But right now, we're going to natural resources. Natural resources we call depletion. That's also capitalization. William, what kind of natural resources do we have here in West Virginia? Coal. We got rock quarries. We got rock. We got timber. Timber, we take depletion on it by the board foot. A board foot is 12 inches by 12 inches by 1 inch. Excuse me just a second. Hey, bud. Well, anyway, It's still cold up here, it's still snowing, so I'll talk to you in the morning, I'll on your way to work, okay? Okay, love you, bye-bye. All right, depletion. You debit depletion expense and you credit accumulated depletion. Now, depletion, if you bought for $10 million coal rights, now West Virginia also has natural gas. You deplete it. And you might have some oil. Some countries have gold and silver. Our country used to have a lot of gold out west, California. We still have some silver mines, I guess. But you pay $10 million for coal. All you got to do is the units of production method. It's the same way. Let's say we're going to get out 100,000 tons of coal. If you divide 100,000 tons into $10,000, you get 10 cents a ton depletion. And if we took out 10,000 tons of coal this year, we multiply that by 10 cents, and what do we get? $1 million? I think that $1 million if I put everything in the correct place. Should have used a different number. Depletion works the same as the units of activity. Natural resources are a type of fixed asset. And here is your formula, just like units of production. Here is your depletion rate. 40 cents a ton. And here is your journal entry. You'll see that in your book and in problems. Now, intangible assets. Now, Eva, I'm not going to ask you to say this word. The one I circled, I'm going to ask the author. All right, author, that word.
Amortization.
Close. Carlos? Evan?
Amortization.
That's what I said.
Morgan?
I was the second one.
All right, it's amortization. Amortization. But it's easy for anybody to say amortization or whatever, but it's amortization. Okay. You see, Carlos, they couldn't pronounce it either. So, okay, so you're okay. Okay, now an intangible can be a patent. A patent is on a piece of equipment or machinery, an ideal. Now, other than patents, here we have to take the life that they give us. I think it's usually 17 years unless they've changed it. And it uses a straight line method. But now, unlike depreciation, you debit depreciation expense, you debit depletion expense, and you debit amortization expense. But depreciation, you credit accumulated. Depletion, you credit accumulated. But for a intangible, you credit the item, you credit patent. Copyrights are on books. Does your textbook have a copyright? All right, poems and songs and so on. Trademarks. All right. What kind of phone do you have? Is that a trademark? Is that Apple a trademark? It is. The trade name is Apple. All right. Now, some people relate that apple to the Bible. I may have told you before, where Adam had Eve to take a bite out of the apple. But here, a bite is what we use in some programming language. Okay. But anyway, a trademark can be advertised also. A trademark can be extended 70 years beyond a copyright beyond the author's death. So Elvis Presley, he's not been dead 70 years yet. Millie, have you heard Elvis Presley music?
Yes.
Have you like it?
No.
Well, it depends on which you hear. He did gospel, he did country, he did pop, and he did rock, and he did blues, and he could sing about anything. All right, the cost of a copyright includes all the cost of creating and any other cost in obtaining it. A copyright is purchased sometimes by a recording studio. They're amortized over their useful estimated life. Trademarks is 10 years. Now, copyright. Now, goodwill. What do you think goodwill is, William?
Not sure.
All right. Go down on the corner and there's a corner store. And the land is worth $2,000. Well, let's say 40 grand. The building is worth 60 grand. And the inventory is worth 20 grand. That's 120, right? But you give 150 for it. What would you give that 30 extra thousand for? Goodwill. Now, what do you think goodwill is there?
Charity.
No, they have the business established. It's already built. We've already got customers. That's why you're willing to pay 30,000 extra for the appraised price of all the assets. Okay, here we will just debit loss, goodwill, and credit goodwill. When we write it off, that's impaired goodwill. All right, here's your intangible assets. Amortization for a patent, amortization, and empowerment of goodwill, or trademark, empowerment of goodwill. And notice the life when you read the chapter. And here is one little ratio. Fixed asset turnover is just sales over your average book value, beginning plus ending divided by 2. All right, I'm not going to do anything from the appendix, but we got to go back. Okay, Morgan, you got a car. What are some ways you can get rid of it?
sell it, wreck it. We could trade it in.
Sell it, wreck it, trade it, give it away? How about just running it over the hill somewhere?
See, that's it.
Grab it, not for insurance though. All right, how do we discard an asset? Here are some ways. All right, we know that we bought equipment. This equipment cost $25,000. Well, we depreciated out $25,000 and we discarded it, so we get rid of accumulated depreciation and equipment. That's if we threw it over the hill, Morgan. Or that's if we just gave it to the neighbor. There's no loss, no gain, no trade-in. Now, if it hadn't been fully appreciated, this asset cost $6,000, depreciated 10%. Now, the depreciation is $46.50. All right, the entry to record depreciation up to date, depreciation expense and credit accumulated. Now we're going to write it off, $6,000. Accumulated depreciation is $48. All right, Morgan's going to throw her a $1,200 car over the hill, discard it, or give it away. So we debit loss on disposal. There's no money involved, right? Now Morgan decides to sell it. Bring depreciation up to date. It might be 3 months, 6 months, what have you. Now we get rid of accumulated depreciation, $77.5. The equipment was on the books for $10, and she sold it for book value. That hardly ever happens. Book value is not always exact. Depreciation is just an estimate. Now let's say she got $3,000 out of that car with debit cash for $3,000. What do you think we would debit for the $750 or credit? What do you think we'd credit for the $750?
Sales.
No. Gain. When she sold that car, she got a gain. She sold it for more than the book value. The book value was $22.50. She sold it for $3, so she has a gain. All right. Well, if she sells that car for $1,000, she has a loss of how much? $1,250. So debit the loss. That's all you got to do when you sell. Now, Morgan mentioned she could wreck that car. Now, if the insurance company fixes it, they give it right back to her, and she still depreciates it. Now, if they completely total it, that's the same as selling it, Morgan. You get a settlement, right? All right, and they illustrate that entry. I didn't know they used $1,250. All right. Now we're going to go to the end of your book, chapter 10. The appendix, exchange and fixed assets, I don't think we have time to cover. Therefore, we will not. I hope I didn't put them on a test. Now remember, units, when we say units of production activity, that could be miles. That could be units produced. That could be hours. When computer servers first came out, just randomly, they would depreciate those servers by the hour. Now, we were talking about depreciation. Wear and tear causes depreciation, right? But so does being obsolete. Okay? Wear and tear makes us men depreciate. I hope we never become obsolete. All right? Okay. Now, the things become obsolete. William, what cell phone do you have?
S6,
A what?
the Samsung Galaxy S6.
Oh, yeah, I'm not familiar too much with the Galaxy.
It's
What
about
is,
3 years old.
what is yours, Morgan?
Yeah.
You already got the 10? Is there anything better than the 10 yet?
Yeah, there's a,
The 10S?
yeah. Plus.
Yeah, well, plus is just bigger screen. What iPhone do you have?
iPhone 8. iPhone 8.
8? See, you're all newer than me. I'm a 7.
You gotta catch up.
The what?
You gotta catch up.
Yeah. But you see, after the 7, there was a 7S, and there was an 8, and there was an 8S, and there's a 10 and a 10S. No. So, more generations. So, iPhones become obsolete pretty much, but we still use them. Okay? Offer, save it for the road, please. Whatever it is, save it. All right, so depreciation is becoming obsolete also. Now, let's work a problem. I want you to do exercise 10-6, 10-7, 10-9, 6, 7, 9. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to work those 3 exercises. 9 minutes. I want everybody to have answers written down. But everybody must work on it. You found it yet? Eva? You found the exercise? Okay. Y'all found the get off?
It's funny.
Don, what these 3 exercises I have, sir? Left that computer all night.
On the second one, how many years?
Good, William. What was the first exercise?
6.
Number 6. All right, folks, let's look at a couple of these, see what we have. I want you to look at exercise 2 for a minute. You see, if we buy land, if you go out and buy a house today for $140,000, now, Morgan, you don't see a way for me to write on this thing, do you? Sometimes it has edit. And I tried this draw and it don't work. Do you see a way I can write on this? All right. But anyway, you add legal fees even to the price of your house. If you have to pay the person's back taxes, you add that on. And if you had to tear down an old building, you add that on. Now, if you got something out of the salvage of those materials, you subtract. But that's just finding bases to depreciate. Land, we don't depreciate anyway. Now, William, you said we had number 6. What's it asking for?
Number 6 is asking for straight line depreciation.
All right, so it looks like it was 64,000 and a scrap 5,200 and 12-year life. And did you get 4,900?
Yes.
Everybody get 4,900? All right. What was the next one, Morgan?
Next one was 10-7.
Number 7? And that was asking for what kind of depreciation?
Units of activity. Activity.
Is that activity? Which is units of production or units of activity? Did you get 90,000 minus 15 divided by 30,000? Morgan, did you get $2.50? Huh?
Yeah, that's right.
Is this the right problem?
Oh, yeah, you take
Two
that
fifty
and
is
then,
1 unit.
yeah,
And then
and then it's asking for 120 hours.
Then you add 120 hours and you multiply. Is 300 your answer? Okay, you got it. Millie must have. Okay. And what's the next one, Evan?
It's number 9, and I got 76,500 and 68,000. I don't know if I'm right.
Well, this solution's all messed up here, number 9. So it looks like you had a piece of equipment, 85,000. What was the life of it? How many years?
It was, yeah,
10? Well, I would multiply 20%, but did you get 17,000, Evan?
yeah, but then I subtracted it from the first number. Are you not supposed to do that?
Well, yeah, for the second year, you have to.
Okay.
If you wanted second year, Evan, you had to subtract right here and take 20%. Did you get 13,600 for the second year?
Yeah.
Carlos? Okay. So y'all can calculate a little bit of depreciation. Look at that discarded and look at that selling. And look at amortization on intangibles, which is patents, copyrights, goodwill. And look at depletion on code and so forth. Okay? So, sorry we had to rush over this chapter. Now, the bonus is on this chapter for next week, if you have time to do them. Okay? Will be 10-3A, 10-5A. That's a sale, and that's the 3 methods. Okay, I've pushed you through a lot tonight. Remember, folks, a lot hinges on the final exam. I think everybody in here possibly has a C or better. If you don't have a C, do well on the exam. But anyway, everybody has a C or better, I suppose, at this moment. So try to do that. Try to do well on the exam. Try to bring Cengage up to date. Try to do these bonuses. It's a lot to do. But we don't have class until a week from tonight. That's the exam. So you got 7 days. I know you have other classes. Okay? But you definitely got to know that accounting is your most important class. I'll see y'all next week.